I'm Vida clients. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see you here and some new faces. If you are new, we are so happy. If this is your first Honest Leadership event, your first Vida event, welcome. We're so happy you're here and that you're spending the next hour with us. It's going to be a good one. I've been really looking forward to this conversation for a long time. And so I'm so thrilled that it's finally here. For those of you I haven't met, my name's Nicole Wood. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders here at Vida. We are a leadership and career coaching firm based here in Chicago, but our coaches are all throughout the country. And we've got some representation in Europe as well. And our mission is to help people love their lives, which is the meaning of our name. And it kind of came about at a time when Forum, my co-founder, and me, we were not loving our lives objectively. We were pretty burned out in our careers and trying to figure out what's next. And each found coaching, and that was kind of what helped us through. And we just thought everyone needs access to this, but historically it had been really reserved for the C-suite. And so we were like, how do we bring coaching? How do we bring this incredible resource earlier on in people's careers? And that is what we do and what we're all about. And honest leadership, it's a near and dear to me because as I've grown as a leader and in leading Vida and through my own kind of personal coaching journey, this ish is hard. So fair warning, PG-13 warning. If you have any kiddos around, I've been known to drop a swear word here and there. So fair warning, it may come up, but I'll try to be on my best behavior for this morning or afternoon. It's hard. It can be a lonely job. There's no playbook where there's lots of advice, and that's why we're here. You have to kind of figure out what works for you. And so what I love about this is we get to sit down with people like Atarah who are really experts in their field, who are doing something exciting. And we get a cheat sheet. We get to hear what she's done, what she's learned, and really advance ourselves as quickly as possible through absorbing those lessons from others. And I think probably even more important than the expertise that they bring and that Atarah brings is the honest piece of the conversation. You might look at folks and say, they wake up confident every morning. They must have all the answers. And the truth is that no one does. And so I think what's really helpful in these conversations, as much as the experience and advice, is the honesty about the journey and that we're all still on it and that we're all still learning and growing in those ways. And so I'm really excited to kick off this conversation about authenticity because that is so huge to the leadership process and to being a successful leader, because you can't lead like anyone else. You have to lead like you. So with that, let's talk about Atarah. Atarah Styles, known as the plus size style mother, is an award-winning plus size wardrobe stylist, TV style expert, confidence coach, and mommy of one, specializing in on-camera, on-carpet, and on-brand styling to highly seasoned CEOs, speakers, public figures, and women of impact. Her agency, the Atarah Styles Agency, is the only styling agency in the country that exclusively serves plus-size women, which I'm excited to talk about. Style became her heart center and own source of healing after her mother's unexpected passing in 2020. But she is no stranger to the image industry. She's a retired professional makeup artist and beauty educator of 13 years and a graduate of Coppin State University. And now she uses her signature style sauce to equip countless powerhouse plus-size women with a style enhanced with flavor, spice, and sizzle. A style that breaks barriers that once forced them to shrink who they are and hinder who they can be. A style that helps them manifest their stage. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her daughter, international travel, line dancing, hosting plus-size events, and catching up on reality TV. Welcome, Atarah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Nicole, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. Let's start with what reality are you watching right now on TV? Tell me, what do I need to queue up?
I need to catch up on Real Housewives of Atlanta because I just saw that the reunion looks are already out. So I need to catch up on that.
Oh yeah, you're looking at the looks.
Yeah, but I love all the Housewives series, especially Potomac, because that's here locally to Maryland. But that's my kind of reality TV.
I love Potomac. I'm a big Bravo fan as well. I love it. Guilty pleasure. Okay, let's start by, I know a lot about your professional career today, but I'd love to start by just getting to know you a little bit better and kind of how you got here, because I always find it interesting what people think they're going to do versus what they end up doing, and then that continues to iterate. So tell us a little bit more about you, your background, and kind of maybe what you thought you were going to do growing up and how you got to the makeup industry.
So I'm born and raised Baltimore, Maryland, still here in Baltimore, West Baltimore. which at the time I didn't realize is a place that people look at as like a rough area. And then growing up in it, it's like, it's home for me. So I've always felt comfortable here. And in Baltimore, I always academically always did really well. And I was the proverbial doctor, supposed to be the doctor of the family, go to school, become a doctor, grow up and, follow that path. But when I got into college, I was one of those students that could not keep a major. I changed my major 3 times. I went in, I didn't even have a major when I started college. Went in, then I decided, sociology. Didn't like that. And I said, okay, biology. I did biology. It was just not for me. And I kind of just kept feeling like, okay, none of this really works for me. So I ended up doing social work and health education. Came out of school, straight out of graduation, went into corporate working for the government. And when I did that, I just didn't feel served. And then in my junior year of college, I decided, this is crazy. I'm 19 years old, 20 years old. I'm going to start a business because I had gotten to makeup. And at first I didn't have everybody's support, but I decided that, this is what I enjoy. This is what I want to do. And I'm a believer of it's not everyone's job to believe in you. You have to make a believer out of them. So very young, starting this business, 2009, makeup artist, literally starting from the ground. As a college student, I didn't have the money to be able to build this kit. I was starting with things from the dollar store, whatever I could work with. The clients started coming. And over the years, I grew my business. And then fast forward to 2016, I had my daughter, took a break. 2017 came, and that's when I got into makeup artistry. And then it became being a mentor, helping other artists, coaching them because I had been in so long. I'm helping them with their businesses. And then 2020 came, and then that's when we got into styling.
Wow. What do you think it was I want to go back to the college days when you're changing your major. What was it that kept you kind of figuring out and iterating on that? Like, this isn't for me, this is for me. How did you have the confidence to keep kind of switching when probably everyone was like, Atarah, just pick something or do this, or there was that pressure to become the doctor?
I've always been like that all or nothing person. If I don't feel settled in something, it's really hard for me to continue. And another part of it, I was in the honors program of my college. So the expectation was, okay, when you're done with this, you're going to go to graduate school. So it was no way that I was going to go to graduate school and continue and give even more of my life and time to something that just wasn't for me. And also the other part of it was I can remember a conversation I had years ago with someone in my church. And I was like, I feel like everybody wants me to go into medicine because, they'll be proud of me and it's lucrative and all of that, but it just doesn't sit right with my soul. And she gave me this song by India Irie. It's called I Choose. And from that moment forward, listen to that song. Basically, it's like saying being the best that you can be, not pleasing other people, even your family, whoever. You have to do what's best for you. And from that point on, I was sold. I was like, I'm going to do what makes Atarah happy because my family and stuff, they'll be proud of me, whatever I do. And unfortunately, there is that stigma that there is no money in image-based professions like makeup and hair. Like, you can't be successful, you can't make a lot of money, but that's totally untrue. There are so many ways to scale a profitable beauty business, styling business without having to go the traditional routes of doctors and lawyers.
Yeah, I love how you said that and how you were talking about like people aren't going to just inherently believe in you, but you make them believers over time. And I think there's a lot of like negative association with that, but I think sometimes it's genuine. Like, it's parents or family members, and their disbelief is out of care because they haven't seen it before that happened that way, or they're wanting that more traditional success path for you. And so it's hard when people are coming to you with love and saying, hey, I think you should do this, to still have the confidence to go in another direction. Like, I know when I left my corporate job to start Vida, everyone was like, are you sure? Like, this is what you want to do. But to your point, if you love it, you're going to create that success. And over time, people will back you up in that. But that's hard in the beginning.
Yes. And I think the defining moment for me as a makeup artist was because I remember early on when I told my mother that I wanted to do makeup. She's like, there's no money in this, do it as a hobby. And that's what gets so many people stuck. We do these hobbies and we don't turn them into real, living, thriving businesses. But the defining moment for me was in 2019 when I had my very first live event as a makeup artist, teaching other artists. My mom was sitting there. You know, that was a defining moment for me. Like, she realized, she hung in there. That's 10 years in. She's really stuck with this, and she supported me. So she wasn't on board initially, but she eventually
She got there.
did.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
think you're right. It's tricky about especially side hustles. And I don't think everything needs to become your main thing. Like if you're happy with it being something you do for your personal fulfillment, whether or not it's making money,
Mhm.
great. But if you do want it to make money, I think there is a
Mhm.
point, and I know I got there where I was like, I cannot get this business any further if I don't dedicate myself fully to it. But I
Mhm.
wanted it to be so much further along so that I had money to live. But you kind of do have to take that leap at some point. Um,
Absolutely.
so I want to go back because I know we talked about in the past, and you talk about this with your clients, the whole idea of like shrinking themselves to fit something that someone else wanted. And you did have that time in corporate and probably even early on in your days as a makeup artist. What were some of the ways you felt like you needed to shrink yourself, whether that was your appearance or your personality or how you showed up?
One way is definitely sometimes having to feel like I couldn't celebrate or share my accomplishments among others. Like I had to pull back and be modest, because we're taught, especially as women of color, to be humble, to scale back and things like that. But there's nothing wrong with celebrating yourself. It's just about the people that you're around. So I had to change my surroundings and be mindful
Mm,
of who I was surrounded with, because if you can't be around people who can legitimately and genuinely clap for you when you're winning, then you're in the wrong circle. Like, you should not have to feel like you're in a cage when you're killing it or when you're doing things. That was one way I had to shrink. Another way was years ago thinking that I had to lose weight to be successful. Like literally shrink, but also the mindset of I have to look a certain way and show up a certain way in order to have success, because that's what society teaches, is that when you're thin, you've arrived. You know, we look at so many celebrities who may have been plus size, and then suddenly there's this shift when they lose weight. So people equate success with being slimmer and smaller. So I had to fight through a lot of those different things in my career to be able to say, you know what, I'm different. I'm different. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be that example of what a plus size woman can do in this world and not have to change or fit anybody's mold.
yeah. And not only not change, but celebrate that difference. And I think that's so much of
Absolutely.
what you do and what you bring
Mhm.
to your clients.
Mhm.
Um, so you talk a lot about like living out loud and living authentically, and that's so inherent in your voice and your social media and your style.
Mhm.
For people who have not been doing that for a long time because they have been trying to shrink themselves to fit society's expectations, that
Mhm.
maybe have kind of even lost touch with like, I'm not even sure who I am if I'm my truest self. Like, how do you begin to uncover that, especially after so many years of trying to either dull or quiet that?
I would say the only way to do it is to do it. I feel like there's nothing else. Like, you have to really just make that decision and say, hey, even if you try, and if it's just one day, just saying, I'm going to do something different, whether it's the way I dress, whether it's the way I express myself, I'm just going to try that one time. I'm telling you, when you have that one experience and see that it's not as bad as you thought, or you get a different reaction, or you get compliments, or you just get a different reaction from what you're used to, that's that positive reinforcement that you need to keep doing that and being. And a lot of times what happens is, because we're holding ourselves back as people, what happens is we realize that if we hadn't held ourselves back, there are a lot of things that are held back because of it. So if you are holding yourself back, what ends up happening is you're probably holding back people who really want to see that. Like, this is what I've been waiting for. Like, where is this person? But because you
Mm.
have this fear, a lot of times what happens is you don't realize what's on the other side of that. Yeah.
Tell me
So
again what you mean by you're holding other people back. Like people want to see people
right.
living authentically, and there's someone out there who's going to be inspired by you being you. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah. Yep. So for example, earlier this year, like the very start of 2023, I posted a reel, and normally I don't post a lot of like stuff of like me having fun and like dancing and stuff like that. But I posted this reel. It's a little bit more outside of what people are used to seeing, but the reactions were insane. Like, Atarah, like, we love this, like we want more of this. And I'm like, well, this is not really related to styling, it's not really related to business, but they loved it. They love seeing that side of me where Atarah's having fun, she's being herself. So sometimes the things, and I honestly second guessed it, I wasn't going to post it. So that's what I mean by holding yourself back, feeling like, well, this is not what people are used to seeing, but it doesn't mean that I
Mm.
can't show them something different. So you just may be holding yourself back from your audience really connecting to you. And once I put that content out, it was like there was a huge shift in my engagement, the way people see you, because there's different layers that we have. We're not just business. We are humans. We're family members. We're mothers. We're friends, all of those things. So people want to see your personality. So that's what I really mean by holding back. Sometimes we feel like we have to be buttoned up all the time. It's okay to unbutton yourself, because some people are really going to connect to that part of you.
Yeah. People are people. People are nuanced. People are complicated. People have many aspects of themselves, and people want to see other humans. And I think it's hard. And I think you do this really well, because especially in a social media driven world and driven brand, there's all these like guidelines that people will tell you to follow. Like, you should only talk about one thing, stick with your message, and don't confuse people. Like, it has to be this. You have to be posting X amount of times and be consistent and all this stuff. And it's hard sometimes to go, but this is me, or this is what I need. And that might be different from what the algorithm says or what the guidelines say, but that's what ultimately people want to connect with. And I've had so many examples of what you said, where I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going to press send, or like I'll write a blog post and I'll just sit with it for a while. And I'm like, I don't know if I have the confidence to do it, but inevitably when I do, especially when it's about more challenging things that I'm going through, or different aspects of my life than the normal leadership content people expect from me, when people respond, I'm like, if that helped one person, and so what if I embarrassed myself in a couple ways, if that helped one person, it was worth it.
And you make such a good point with that, because we're always looking for the masses, but sometimes impact can just be for that one person. And I think it's important that we not always focus on, oh, going viral, or, oh, all these people liked it, or all these people, because there are people, believe it or not, who watch everything you do. They may never say a word, but you're silently inspiring them, even if you don't see it. So it's so important that we not always focus on our content speaking to the masses, but speaking to that one person, that one client, or that one person, a part of your community that just needed that message.
Yeah, you're so right. And we'll have people who will tell us, like, I've been following Vida for 2 years, and today was the day that like I took action. So you're right. There are people that are silently inspired by what you're doing and following what you're doing. And that's such a great reminder. You've talked about people have given you the advice, like, why don't you style? Why are you exclusive to plus size women? You're leaving money on the table, and you're very firm and like, no, that I'm not. And this is my focus for a reason. So back to the like not trying to appease everyone. Why is that so important to you? And how do you actually think that serves your business?
I often like to use it as a teachable moment, because like for someone who may not be business savvy, the understanding of what the power of niching down really does, it makes you that go-to, it makes you top of mind. If I put myself in a pool of stylists as a generalist, like let's say cancer, you can go to a general doctor, but they're not going to be as well versed in being able to treat you as if they refer you to a cancer oncologist or a cancer specialist or some type of center that specializes in that. So you can be a generalist, but specialists, we know, get paid more. We also know that specialists are trusted more for their expertise, because that's all they know. So I always look at it that way when it comes to putting me inside of a pool of stylists where I serve everybody. It's different. I'm over here with this blue ocean where it's not, plus size women are underserved. And the other thing is, you say money is left on the table, plus size women are the money left on the table. We are so excluded, even though we make up the majority of the population. Most women in this country are over size 14. The majority of us are not well represented or served in fashion. So when it comes to that, I am able to say, okay, I'm putting this line in the sand and saying, I'm staying over here. There's no amount of money, no name, no celebrity that could make me ever want to step away from the community that I serve. And I think it's important that you stand firm, because when you do that too, that shows integrity and character, and people respect that. When you're wishy-washy, you can go and step onto anything, and money or whatever opportunities can move you into any direction. I'm not that type of person. I'm standing 10 toes down for plus size.
Yeah, there's trust there when someone stands behind what they do. And to your point, like,
Mhm.
if you serve everybody, people aren't going to think of you for anybody. So having that clear picture
Exactly.
of like, this is exactly who this person works with, then you're going to be that referral and the person who comes to mind every time they think of you.
Yes, like I'm so firm. Like when you see a plus sign, I want you to think of Atarah Styles. That's where I am with it. Like, like that is the brand recognition that we are striving for. Like everything
Yeah.
plus size. It means it's so important one, not to niche down, but also to build that authority when you're talking about focusing on a specific market. And I know plus size in and out. And honestly, I have tried in my earlier days of styling working with women who aren't plus, and it just didn't feel natural to me. So it's not even of interest to me.
Yeah, like follow also your interest and energy because that's where you're going to
Right.
thrive in your business as well. Back
Exactly.
to the social media question, and it's a question about social media, but it's also, I think, bigger than that. You had shared, I don't remember the exact date, but you said on March 11th, I was at 5%, and today I'm at 85%. So this was maybe like a couple months later.
Mhm.
And you took a break, and your business probably largely depends on you having a public presence and you're hosting events
Mhm.
and doing all these things that depend on that. But you were like, I'm taking a step back, and I needed that to go from this 5% to the 85%. And I'm sure everybody in the world will tell you, you need to be consistent. And then we're always, feeding, like we said, the algorithm. So whether that's social media, whether that's different aspects of your life that you feel
Mhm.
pressure to
Mhm.
show up for, how did you know it was time to give yourself a break? How did you be true to yourself and your needs in those moments?
And honestly, when I took that break, most people would be like, why would you do that at a time like this? Like I had just did one of my first TV appearances and the momentum was super high. And I decided I'm tired. Like I did so much leading up to that event that afterwards I was spent. Like I was tired. Like I was imagine myself on that day going out to celebrate. I didn't even have the energy to do any of that. Like I just needed that
Mm,
time. I don't think people realize, like, especially when you are doing things of public interest, like television and press, how much goes into that. Because with video or television, live TV, there is no Photoshop, there is no rewind, reverse. It is as it is. So I put my all in making sure that I show up and that I represent plus size women well when we go into these spaces. So when that happened, I just had to take a break. And I think that was such a shocker to so many because most people would have rode that wave incessantly right after something like that. But I did something that was the total opposite. But that's where I was able to exercise my freedom because now I realize now as an entrepreneur, it's okay to say, okay, yeah, you did that, but it doesn't define me. I can take a break. And if the momentum was there, then I know how to bring it back. I don't have to ride this wave. When I'm ready, I will ride it again. And that's what I did. I came back and I came out swinging. And it was like I never left. But I gave the message to other people because when we, especially as single parents, as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to be always on to be relevant. If you're not busy, you're not important. If you're not busy, then you must not be that great at what you do. But taking that break was how I got my power back. And I wanted to
mm.
encourage others to do the same.
I love that. I love that not only did you do it, you talked about it because you could have easily just slipped away, slipped back in, and people would have been like, okay, she's back. But the fact that you
Right.
do that, it's almost like giving that permission to someone else who maybe wouldn't have taken it.
Yeah, and behind the scenes, I had a lot of people reaching out, like, because they're so used to me showing up. They're reaching out, you all right? Everything okay? So that also was very like humbling for me because you think that people don't notice social media is this big ocean of people, but people, when people feel your absence, that's a beautiful thing. That they value your presence
Wow.
so much that they can also feel your absence, and that meant so much. But I took my time, and it was worth it. Have you ever had a period in your business where you felt like you just needed to take away for a little bit?
All the time. um,
Right, right.
yes, I would say I find it easy to get lost in certain things at times. So whether that's social media or like an initiative we're pushing super hard, I think
Mhm,
I feel those moments where I'm like, there's too much friction here, or this isn't going, like, let's take a step back to
mhm,
see what we're missing.
mhm,
Is this thing even still important? And I will say personally, having my daughter, you think, I think I thought it was like, oh, you take 12 weeks or whatever if you're lucky, and you come back and you're just you know, back in this, like I was very naive with that. And I would say it took me 2 years probably to start feeling like myself again. And in that time, it took me a while to give myself permission to start operating at a different energy level than I was operating in the past. And so I think I wish I had known that going into that experience, but nothing can truly tell you that. But I'm getting better at being like, this is a marathon. Like I'm building this business for the long term. It's okay if there are periods where I'm less intense.
Yes, yes. I definitely get it. Like I know after I had my daughter, I was never the same. Never the same. And I mean, since they give us 12 weeks is not enough. I took 4 months and that still wasn't enough. I remember the first day I went back to work, I was a mess. I cried, called the daycare incessantly. I couldn't handle it.
It's tough. And your body's still changing and you're going through, I mean, so much change for so much longer than you expect. And so, yeah, it is tough. I wanted to talk about, you talk about internalizing rejection. And I think this also has to do with the drawing the line in the sand of like, if you state really clearly who you are, what you're about, inevitably that means there are going to be people you are not for, or that just don't resonate with your message. And you talked about how you used to really internalize that as like a personal assessment. And then you wrote something that I just love, so I want to read it. You said, sometimes it's a season mismatch, sometimes it's projection, sometimes it's nothing at all. And I love that because there's so many things it can be. And I find I'm really good about doing this with others, whether that's our clients or friends, and someone might be like, oh, I didn't get this job. And I'm like, hey, well, guess what? Maybe they went with someone internal. Maybe they just ran out of budget, didn't tell any of the candidates that they just got rid of it. It's so easy to see it's not you, it's something else when it's someone else. But when it's you and when it's me, I'm like, oh, this must be, they didn't like me, or the lack of my skills in some way. So how did you start thinking about that? How did you make that shift? How did you get the confidence to say, it's okay if I'm not for you, or this business is not for you?
So growing up, I think it starts from childhood, because for me, growing up, rejection was something that I saw early on, especially being plus size, being bullied, having trouble with making friends, all of those different things. So it took a long time for me to pull out of that. And then also going through a marriage and then separation, divorce, that has its own form of rejection. Having to overcome that really helped me, because there is so much of what we call tipping, taking things personal, that can really take you into a downward spiral. Like it could be a small thing, like the client didn't book with you. So then you're like, oh, maybe I'm incompetent. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe my business is a fail. Maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe I need to stay in my 9 to 5. Like you just go into this spiral, like you said, of just constant overthinking. And all it was maybe they just couldn't afford to invest in you, or maybe they just weren't a good fit for your process. And I've learned to be thankful in those moments, because a lot of times, sometimes when things do come and it is a yes, there's that regret because it really shouldn't have been a yes. Like sometimes we take on things that we think are great opportunities and they're not always great. So when I reframe my thinking, and if something doesn't go well, maybe that just wasn't the right space for me, the right platform. Maybe that person wasn't going to do right by me. Well, what if that client would have been a nightmare? Then, okay, I have their money, but now I also have a headache. So all of those things come to mind now. So I've learned to reframe in a positive, like this protection is another form of what I look at rejection as. Okay, they didn't want me, but maybe those people aren't people I need to be intermingled with. Maybe those people aren't people I need to build relationships with, because I don't know what's going on the other side of that. So I've learned to reroute every like missed opportunity or let down into something better or positive, and use those opportunities for growth. Because if you're constantly fed yes, 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 that does something to your ego. So when that no comes, it's very hard. It's very damaging. So having that healthy mix of rejection, a healthy sense of self, and really being able to work on my self-esteem has been great, because now when things come, okay, all right, what's next? Let no, as I say, be always the encouragement to move on to the next next opportunity. That's what I do now.
Oh my gosh, there was so much goodness in that response. Like 3 main things stood out to me. One was the first, like it's probably not you and how you jump to all these things, but like maybe they couldn't afford your fee and they felt embarrassed to share that, or we have no idea. And so I love the just like taking a step back to like get out of that spiral. I love what you said about the gratitude piece of like, yes, maybe they could have worked with me, but like, would that have cost me more in the long run? Because now this is a client I'm running circles around or whatever. It's not working out for me or causing heartache in other ways. So to really treat it with gratitude, and 3 being the like, you got to have the no's along the way. So when you get one, it doesn't hurt so bad. You're so well trained. You're like, it just goes right off your back. I love that.
Yeah, because if I tell you, if I had always had yeses, yes, 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 all these years, and that no, that would have been super crushing. But it's definitely something that helps. It continues to keep your feet on the ground, and it also helps you to work on your confidence and things like that. Because if all you hear is yes, is that authentic confidence? You got to be able to feel the same way about yourself when you hear the no's as well. You got to be able to.
Yeah, that's great. And it guides you to, if you're listening, it can guide you to like, okay, well, this is my niche, or this is where I'm getting a lot of like really strong positive yes versus like a wishy-washy yes. So that's the space that we want to be in. I love that.
I actually, at one point, like I had started early on in my business screenshots of like, from like emails or things where it's like, oh no, we can't proceed to work with you, or this isn't a good fit, or this fell through. I started keeping those as screenshots for motivation, so that when things turned around and it started being, just send me the invoice, or oh, this thing came, then I'm like, now I can look back and say, this is where I came from. This is the journey. So I say use those types of things as motivation to keep track of those things, because you'll be able to come back later and reflect like, I let that get me down. Like I let that disappoint me. Look where I am now. So use it as motivation.
I love that. I used to, and I see this with our coaches, and I did it too. Like the first time they have a client that cancels their membership with us, it hurts. And I remember back in the day, and I would do the same thing. Like, well, we must not have done a good enough job, or what's going on that they chose to make this decision. And it might be like they accomplished their goals, or they're just at a different place in their life. Or they got such a great service that they're feeling good that they're on their own. So there's all these things, but even just the like, that used to destroy me and ruin my night, and I couldn't enjoy dinner, after that. Now it's like, okay, it's part of the business and I can move forward. I hadn't thought about it that of like tracking the fact that how much stronger and more resilient I am, and how much the business has grown, that these things that used to be ruining my day, I now can kind of take in stride.
Because we all have those moments, like especially when you just know it's going to happen. Like it could be literally like seconds down to the minute, and then boom, oh, we have to cancel this, or oh no, I changed my mind. Like we all have those moments, and that is the worst feeling, but it's really in all how you handle it. But it's the worst. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Many tears have flown at the Atarah Styles agency, but really I've gotten better, and this is only preparing me for what's greater, because as you expand, you have to toughen and thicken your skin, because it's a dog-eat-dog world out here. And especially the industry that I'm in, I'm realizing that all of these things that are coming my way, the disappointments and stuff, it's preparing me for greater as I grow. So you absolutely need this training now, because if I can't take it now as I continue to grow, I'm not going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, the stakes just get higher, and it impacts more people as you grow a team. And so, yeah, I think that's great. It reminds me of something else that you wrote, which is, I personally really struggle with, where you said, while you're skipping to the good part, remember there's good in every part. And it's such a great reminder while you're going through these things. And if you are the type of person who's like always setting your sights for the next thing, to forget to enjoy the goodness in the current moment and where you are. And I will be, transparent with everyone on here. Like the past year has been personally tough for me. The business had a lot of those examples that you're talking about, where we're about to kick off a project and then our client, went through layoffs and our contract got cut, or, it's just been tough in our industry. And so it's been tough for us. It's been tough for me personally. We've been trying for our second child for a year and have had, I just had my third miscarriage, and it's hard to feel like you can see the good when it's like, well, once I get here, I'll enjoy it. Or when you feel like your life's on, parts of your life are on hold. So how do you ground yourself in that and remember to find the gratitude in those moments?
I just want to say I'm so sorry for the journey that you currently are dealing with having your next
Thank
child.
you.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
First of all, to be vulnerable and share that in a space like this, like thank you for being open to sharing that.
Thank you.
I know that it's not easy. I'm sorry. There's honestly, because I just feel like what you're feeling, like how you're feeling right now. It's really hard to answer the question because it's really hard to put into words like how to keep moving and keep going when you experience something like that, because that's so personal.
Yeah.
It's so personal. It's so
Yeah.
personal.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Thank
so
you.
personal. And yeah, I mean, everybody that's on here, just send some love in the chat, because I just, Nicole, I could give you the biggest hug right now.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to come to Baltimore and you're going to give me a big hug
yes,
at
absolutely.
some point.
Let's do it.
And I'm going to give you one. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to share it for that reason and to make it so specific, but I think everyone's going through their version of that, whether that's they've been out of work for a year, or they have lost a loved one, or they are building their business and it feels like you're just taking one step forward, two steps back. So whatever the thing is for you, I think it's just the situations are different, but the feeling is very relatable. And so I love that you shared that. Even just sharing those words and sharing that on your social media, it really was a good reminder for me. And so if there is anything else that comes to mind about what you do or how you think about it, I'd love to hear.
So when I walk through my journey, I would feel like 2018 was where the turning point was for me, because growing up, after coming out of college, all I ever wanted to do was be married. All I ever wanted to do was belong to someone. And for me, I would say those parts at the time, going through the separation, transitioning to being a one income household and being a single parent, at the time, those things felt like hell. Like, I'll tell you, I'm not ashamed to say I had many phone calls with the credit card companies like, hey, can you help me work something out? Like, this is all new to me. I remember the guy and I'm not pitching for Discover, but Discover has some of the most amazing customer service. This man literally listened to me on the phone as a human being, not as a debt collector, listened to me and heard me in tears. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bill this month. Like, I got other priorities. Like, this credit card bill may mess up my credit, but I need to make sure I have groceries and rent paid, those types of things. So going through those things, because Skip to the Good Part comes from that, like, that song where it's like, can we skip to the good part? And it's like, it makes you seem like we have to hopscotch over certain parts of the journey, and people only acknowledge the come up. And I wish that we weren't so, as humanity, we weren't so fickle, where we only look at people when they arrive and work with celebrities, or arrive and they make all this money. But look at when people are in the trenches, like really trying to get there. Everybody has a story. Social media will have you believe that everybody is an overnight success story, and it's just not true. It's not true. For instance, there are people that I admire. For instance, Tabitha Brown is someone I really admire. She said she's been on this journey to her acting and all the things she's doing since 1997. Imagine being in something almost 30 years, and maybe the last 5 years really coming on the rise as a personality, as somebody that everybody loves. Like, people don't look at that enough. But all those things now, she and so many other people, as they go on these journeys, can look back and say, wow, look where I am now. So for me, look at the good in everything. No, you may not be making the money that you want to make today. No, you may not have the relationship or the success that you're looking for, but hold on, because it does get better. But while you're waiting, trying to get to that next big thing, honor and don't downplay what's happening right now. Okay, you have an event, people don't come. You only have a few people that come. Be happy for those 10, 15, 20 people who show up today, so that when you are packing houses of 200, 2,000, however many people, you can say, wow, these people supported me then, and now look where I am. But we have a tendency to look for the grandiose and the big and wanting to impress people. But at the end of the day, all that stuff doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter.
You're so right. And I love
Yeah.
what you said, and I think that's just a great advice for everyone.
Mhm.
Just how much showing up matters, and whether showing up is commenting on a post or buying full price from your friend's business or
Yeah.
showing up to
Oh,
an
we can
event.
speak on that forever.
Whatever that is, like,
Uh-huh.
you will not see how much that means to that person, and then you become the reason they have 4 people to celebrate that came to their event. So big thank you to everyone who's on the call today.
Yes.
But I think
Yo.
that's so powerful in just helping people find the good in those moments, is just being the person that shows up for others.
Yes. And one of my core values in my business is excellence. So I'm going to show up like it is a packed house of 2,000 for 20 people, the same way I show up for those 2,000 or whoever. Like, I believe in giving people the same experience, no matter what magnitude it's on. I'm going to show up the same, no matter what space I enter. And that's so important as you build your reputation. You don't want to be the person that only shows up and shows out for the masses. You want to be that person that, for that one person, you show up the same way. There's this huge argument, celebrities versus people. I treat all of my clients like celebrities. So I think it's important that we make everybody feel important, seen, and valued when we do the work that we do. It's so important, because you never know where that person is going to go, how what you did for that person can transpire into so many other opportunities.
Yeah.
But you look at, oh, well, I want to be a celebrity such and such, or I want to work with this big company, and you only strive for that. Where's the excellence? Where are the opportunities for excellence between now and then? There's so many. And those things are what builds your reputation. That's how you build your social proof. That's how people begin to know, love, and trust you. Not like, love and trust you. And one thing I know, my godmother always taught me, when people like you or they love you, they're willing to help you and get you there and support you. And we don't leverage our communities enough. We're looking for the big fish, but there's so many amazing people in your sea right now who want to see you win, and we need to leverage that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. The opportunities for excellence along the way, and people see through it. People know whether you're phoning it in versus not, and they can tell.
Yes.
And that is why they
Yeah.
love and trust you, because you give 100% to every single person in your orbit. And I think that's so powerful. And just, I can attest to that in my interactions with you. Everything that you've shown up 100% in promoting and interacting with us and the team, like, you give it everything. And I think that's probably why your clients trust you so much. And I think it's really powerful. I know we're getting close to time, and I want to leave some time for folks to ask some questions. So while we do that, because I know people are going to need to drop for other meetings that come up, I want to make sure that you get to share, how can people follow you and stay in touch? And then you do have a big event coming up. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So I am Atarah Styles across all platforms, Atarah Styles. If you're a plus size, because my target audience is CEOs, speakers, and public figures. So that's women who are women of impact and influence out here who are plus size. I start at size 10 and above. If you are looking for someone who's going to thicken your authority by helping you spice up your style sauce, go to www.atarahstyles.com. I have complimentary style talk consultations where we can talk more about your style goals and how working with me can amplify them and make them happen. So I love being able to work with women for on-camera, brand, and event styling. So those are our 3 core services that we offer. We also do VIP days, and we also do long-term styling services. Atarah Styles on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. I would love to see you come join the Stylesly. And we have an event coming up October 8th here in Baltimore, the Styles Brunch. It is a plus size luxury fashion brunch for the style savvy, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to have a panel, we're going to have a carpet, we're going to have vendors, events, and of course, amazing food. So, and fashion. So, if you're interested, the link is in my bio. At AtarahStyles.com, you can get your tickets for that event. We're already a third full, and we're not even 2 months out, so I'm super excited. Yes,
that's amazing. Do you work remotely, or are your clients all in the Baltimore area?
Actually, 85% of my clientele is virtual. So I work with women all over the country. And our agency has connections all over. So like, if they don't work with me here in Baltimore, I have connections with makeup artists, all image professionals, photographers, all of that all over. And also, if you are a plus size woman who needs help with your shapewear game, I am revamping my shapewear guide to be more interactive, more user friendly. There is a link at atarahstyles.com to join the waitlist for the updated shapewear guide. And I'll be happy to give you some tips and pointers on how to choose your next shapewear.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. I know
Mhm.
there's some questions in the chat, so we will be sending out this recording. We'll send out the links that
Mhm.
Jillian's dropping in the chat right now and everything Atarah references. So don't panic if you don't get it copied and pasted right now. We'll make sure that you have that in the follow-up email, which will go out likely tomorrow. Okay, I'm sure you all have many, many questions for Atarah. Please feel free to start dropping those in the chat and we will go through them. Or you can, I think you can do the raise your hand thing if you want to speak directly to her. While you're thinking about those, I will also mention, we started this with talking about Amala Vida and coaching and kind of the point of these conversations. And it is that leadership is a challenging journey. Career transitions are a challenging journey, and you don't have to do them alone. This is one form of support that I selfishly go to, which is to talk to amazing people like Atarah and learn from them. And coaching is another avenue for that, to have that unbiased third party who can help guide you through that and be in your corner and throughout those moments. It's incredibly powerful. So if you are new to Amala Vida and you've been thinking about potentially working with a coach or aren't totally sure exactly what that is, we'll drop in a link where you can book a free consultation with our team where they'll walk you through it and they'll pair you with the perfect coach for you, because coaching is not one size fits all. You need to work with a coach who's the right match for you, your style, your energy. And our team is so good at pairing people with the right coaches. So with that in mind, anyone have the first question? Oh, I see one from Sophia. She says, hey, Atarah, I love your perspective on positive reinforcements. Can you elaborate on where you find encouragement and support within yourself and others?
So I always say, like, whenever you're trying something new or stepping out of your comfort zone, for instance, let's bring it back to style. If you wear something that you're normally not used to, one of the biggest forms of positive reinforcement is the compliments that you receive. Like, if you are constantly being affirmed or being pointed out for something that may be new to you, that's going to make you do it again, because who doesn't want to feel good? Compliments are one of the biggest ways that I feel is a form of positive reinforcement. Also looking at the grand scope of the responses that you get just in general, like for instance, if it's a post you put on social media, or if it's something that you're doing that's different, what kind of feedback are you getting? Are people getting in your DMs? Are you getting people saying, oh wow, I love this, or this is amazing? Like, that's positive reinforcement for me. Also the impact that I make when I'm able to work with a client and see the transformation, or they're like, like I had one client that said to me, Atarah, you changed my life. And I remember on this particular day, I gave her my all. I was tired because it had been a long day before, but to hear her send me a text message, that was positive reinforcement to keep going. To somebody
Wow.
to say, a woman much older than me, to say, I changed your life. Somebody who's lived and had a lot of experience to say that I changed her life, and I'm much younger than her. Like, that was, you just can't put a price on stuff like that. Testimonials, just social impact has been a positive reinforcement. When I get those DMs, like, you don't realize how much you've helped me. Like, I had one woman reach out to me, because of you, I started wearing more colors, and she sent me pictures of, so that type of stuff, that's the reinforcement that helps me to keep going as a service provider.
I love that. That's so powerful. And I love hearing, social media can get a bad rap, and we can talk about all the challenges that come with it, but it's also so powerful that people can have that connection with you and that you can have that influence and reinforcement there too. And I love what you said about compliments. We talk about this a lot of the time when people are disconnected with their authentic selves or aren't sure what career path they want to go down, thinking about things like, well, what do people compliment you on? Or what do you do that is different from others? And really reflecting on that, because I guarantee there's something, and there's something that people come to you for. So what are those things, and how do you let that guide then where you put your time and energy? That's awesome. Okay, we have another question here that says, you said earlier that if the people around you can't genuinely clap for you, you have to change that. Can you share an example when you recognize the people around you weren't clapping for you, and how did you start to change this?
So one thing I know for sure, as an entrepreneur, you absolutely have to find those communities of entrepreneurs, because your day-to-day friends who may not be in that world just are not going to get it. They're not going to be the ones that you can talk about the house burning down in your business. You know, you have to find people who absolutely get it. And I realized once I started, and it's okay, not saying that you have to walk away from those people, but recognize that as you grow and as you elevate, if we look at any building, the penthouse normally is just one residence. The higher you go up, you end up just being by yourself. So we have to realize as we elevate, you can't take everybody with you. I not necessarily had to end certain relationships, but sometimes just had to put those relationships in a different place. Those may not be the people that I can take with me as I grow. They may not be the people I can call when I'm failing or when things just feel all out of sorts. So when it comes to being around people who don't clap for you, if you're in a circle of people who, when you announce good news, because one or two things is going to happen. Either they're going to try to go one for you, and when you're sharing your good news, oh, well, this is what happened to me. Instead of celebrating you, they have to bring up something about themselves. Or they're like, oh, okay. If they don't get excited, if they don't get hyped when you talk about your wins, you need to check that relationship. So for me, if you're not clapping, then that means to me you're sitting on your hands. And I can't bring people like that with me. So just leave them in a different place. They may not be the friend, they may be the industry peer, they may be the associate. So being able to classify people and find your community. When I began to find communities of amazing women who are striving like me, the conversation changed. We were able to celebrate each other genuinely. There is no competition, there is none of that. But your friends and your family, for the people who know who you used to be or who you are, they sometimes want to hold you to that standard. But once you find those communities of people who get it, you'll be valued in a different way. And it's life changing. So if you don't have it right now, I would say start looking for networking meetups for business owners, go into rooms that you never thought you would be in, and start having those conversations, because those are going to be your people.
Yeah. And I love how you said, like, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to cut people out. You just put them in a different place. Like maybe they're still a great friend to hang out with, but they're not going to be the person who gets what's going on in your business. And that's okay, because very rarely can people fill all those roles. That's great. Okay, we have another question that is, any tips for developing inner self-confidence when you are not feeling good enough? Interview coming up, and interested in your thoughts on a confidence boost you can do for yourself walking into a stressful situation. This is a great question.
So I'll answer the first piece and I'll come back to the second part. So one of the things that I do, and I do this with my daughter, because growing up for me, confidence or self-esteem was not something that was a huge like point of development in my family. So one of the things that I started doing, sticky notes, and they even have transparent ones now. You can stick them to your mirror, put different affirming statements on them, like I'm amazing, I'm a wonderful friend, or whatever you need to put. And every time you go into the bathroom, put it somewhere where you're going to see it all the time, not the mirror at work, the mirror that you're going to see every day, which is likely your bathroom mirror. Put those stickies everywhere so that when you go in, turn the light on, and you're washing your hands or whatever you're doing, that's the first thing you see every morning. And something about seeing it all the time, it's going to end up sticking to your brain. And I do that with my daughter now. So she has them in her bathroom, on her mirror, and it works. And it really does. It's like a programming thing. Like if you listen to a recording over and over again, you're going to know the words, you're going to know the cadence, all that. So if you constantly see this programming in front of you, and you get to curate it. So whatever you want to feel about yourself, put those things out there on the mirror. Even if you don't feel it today, if you keep looking at it for 30 days in the mirror, every time you get dressed in the morning, it's going to stick. And that energy is going to carry you throughout your day. In stressful situations, breathe, lean on support. One of my toxic traits is not asking for help, realizing that there is so much out there. Definitely ask for help at all times. And don't be afraid to say, hey, can you help me with this? If they say no, fine, there's somebody else who will. But for stressful situations, breathe. You need somebody to give you a pep talk, do that. As a stylist, I also do offer confidence coaching, because I recognize the difference the parallel between not just looking good, but the inner feelings and the mindset. But yeah, definitely, if you have situations where it feels stressful, just breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah. I love that you do that with your daughter. I'm going to steal that. And
Yes,
everyone send your pictures of your sticky notes to Atarah after
yes,
we do
please
this.
send them
We're
to
gonna
me.
do it. It'll be so
We
fun.
should start a challenge. How about we start a
Yeah,
challenge or
let's do
something?
it. I
Yeah,
love
that'd
it.
be
Let's
cool.
do it. And
Yeah.
it's funny how much we can learn from them too. Like my daughter yesterday
Mhm.
got dressed and she looked at herself and she was like, Mama, I look like a princess. And I was like, may you never lose this. And like, I need to take a
Right.
page
That's
out of
how I
your book
feel. Like,
too.
don't lose that energy because kids they have such abundant energy. And I just pray that my daughter continues to grow and see herself that way because this world will strip you of it if you don't have that foundation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Atarah. You
Yeah.
are an absolute joy to chat with. I'm excited for our new challenge. I'm planning my trip to
Yes.
Baltimore. I'm going to come see you.
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for joining us today. This was such a fun way to really kick off the week. And I'm excited to keep in touch.
Yes, me too. I am so grateful. Thank you for having me. Your team has been amazing. You have some amazing women behind you. You really do.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.